All right, it is now 5 o'clock. I will call the meeting of the Waxahachie Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Please let the record show that a quorum is present, the meeting has been duly called, and the notice of the meeting has been duly posted for time and manner required by law. At this moment, we have 6 trustees present, with Mr. Schoolfield will be joining us at a later time. First item on our agenda will be our closed session. So tonight's agenda references the authority of the board to convene in closed session pursuant to section 551.001 et sec of the Texas Government Code. At this time, the board will convene in closed session to discuss the human resources item on tonight's agenda, which includes the personnel report as recommended by the superintendent. That includes employment, retirements, resignations, position changes resulting in potential additional positions, and professional contracts pursuant to section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. It is now 5:01 p.m. 7:56, we're going to reconvene back into open session. At this time, Mr. Starnader is going to lead us in our invocation, followed by Mr. Rogers with our pledges.
Please bow your heads. Dear God, we come to you tonight thankful for a community that cares about kids. We ask that you will help us this evening to ask questions and seek the decisions that are truly in the best interests of our students. We send uplifting prayers to our families in our district who are struggling in many ways during very, very challenging times. Please be with them. And we also send prayers to our class of 2020 across the district and their families. These kids are missing a huge part of the first real milestone in their lives, and we're sorry for their sadness. Help us be sensitive to their situation and to assist in whatever we can do to properly honor them. Thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, next item on our agenda will be our public comment section. I believe we have 4 individuals that have signed up to speak tonight. First person was Mr. Wilson, Steve Wilson. So, Mr. Wilson, I need you to step forward, state your name and address for the record, please. I'll let you know that you will have 5 minutes to speak. When you get to about the 4-minute mark, I will let you know, and then I'll let you know as you get closer to 5 minutes. Also, just to let you know that no one except our superintendent can respond with any comments for anything that you may have to say, okay?
Okay.
All right. Floor is yours.
Yeah. Well, first of all, my name is Steve Wilson. I'm the CEO and founder of Texon Utilities. We're at 408 Water Street. We're exactly a half mile from here, right across from the fire station. So, and I'm here to speak to 2 items on the consent agenda. Items F and G. And I had sent an email with an attachment to all the board members. Did anybody need a copy of that, or did everybody receive that? Okay. Yeah, so just to address that a little bit, we're entrenched here in Ellis County. In Waxahachie, we're recognized by retail electric providers around the country as one of the top brokers in the nation. We even was recognized in 2008 as being one of the fastest growing companies in America by Entrepreneur Magazine, number 49 in the nation for fastest growing. So we've done well, but our heart's really here in Ellis County. We have a lot of key accounts here in Ellis County, and one of the unique things we do is we really take care of our Ellis County customers. We have the ability to really work with construction issues, add and deletes, anything relative to easements, things such as that. We can't do that in other parts of the country that we sell in because we just don't have the personnel in those parts of the countries, but we have them right here. So when we received the business from WISD in 2016 for a contract that started in January 2017, since then we've worked on many key projects with your personnel, and it's been a great experience. Did quite a bit of work with the Max Sensom Elementary, the Agri-Science Building, the Admin Modular Building Addition, and the new high school. And cumulative, we probably spent about 300 hours, key hours, working with your personnel and helping in various ways. And I could go into more detail on that, but time would not permit today. But basically, we started last year talking to the personnel at Waxahachie ISD about either a reverse auction or a blend and extend with your current provider, because the rates were very attractive. We were encouraging that. We were told basically appreciate that. They looked at it, but they said, we're looking to go to an RFP. We want to do an RFP. So we said, okay, we understand if that would be the school's decision. Early this year in February, the WISD issued an RFP. We spent considerable time and effort responding to it. We worked with 5 different retail electric providers. One of them we didn't submit, but the other 4, we spent quite a bit of time with the retail electric providers submitting the RFP. We spent about 40 hours just doing that with these guys, and they all spent quite a bit of time themselves putting that together. We learned that we were the only ones that submitted anything on that as far as an RFP, Texon Utilities. So we did get called in and talked about our RFP for about 30 minutes with one of your staff. And the next thing we heard was we started getting, especially from NGU, who's your current provider, and TXU, those were our 2 recommendations of our finalists that, and I put this in the...
1 minute.
Oh, okay. Well, I put that in the email, and so I think you guys saw that. And so we're very perplexed, very disappointed that it looks like now all of a sudden there's another company that's come in that didn't respond to the RFP, and that's out of Sanford, Connecticut. And we're right here in Waxahachie, one of the top brokers in the nation. And we're going, we know we've served you guys well. Never had a problem, always been bragged on. And we have this throughout the county, through the cities of Ellis County. And most of our people work and live right here. Our kids go to school at WISD. And we're just, we're going to fight for this business. We want your business. And so I would ask that the RFP be considered, but if not, then I would ask that further investigation to look at us compared to who's on the agenda here, item G, Tradition Energy.
Very much, sir.
Because of your letter and because of your concerns, the board has asked that the item be pulled from consent for discussion. So I would suggest, we're embarrassed that people can't come in the room because of the COVID, but if you stand out there, you'll be able to hear the discussion whenever the board talks to Mr. Calden about the very concerns that you have brought to their attention.
Okay. Thank you very much. Could I make just one other remark? Relative to this, I've really struggled with this, but I think it would be comparable to the citizens of Waxahachie deciding that this is not the board for them, but they'd rather have a board out of Sanford, Connecticut doing their business. That's the way we feel about this, and that's our ownership with you guys. So we thank you for the consideration.
Thank you. Amy Fuller? One second, Ms. Fuller. No, you can stay there.
Ms. Quigley asked is there another room that they can watch it on the internet? I know the one room right now is full of staff. Is there another place that they can set up that they can watch it on?
We could expel staff from that one room and let them watch in that room and move staff to another room.
That's how they kind of know when they come up.
I'm saying we could move staff to another room.
Could we open up that HR room that's got a TV in it?
For our staff,
They'd probably better put them there and then
Sure.
put the others.
Sure.
Another 7 minutes.
we can work that.
It'd be very complicated. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Okay. Ms. Fuller, what I need you to do is I need you to state your name and address for the record.
Okay.
You will have 5 minutes to speak. I will let you know when you get to about the 4-minute mark, and then I'll let you know when you have 15 or 20 seconds left.
Okay.
And just to let you know that no one on this panel can respond to any questions or comments that you have other than our superintendent. Okay? We're ready when you are.
Okay. My name is Amy Fuller. I live at 637 Tulane Road in Waxahachie. And I'm only here to express the concerns I've had about the class of 2020. Because I I feel like, and of course, I'm just one of 530, a parent of 530 kids. And I did feel like that the lack of compassion and communication for the seniors was very, I don't know what word to say, is present, if you will, okay? Everything was canceled, everything, as you know. And I heard communication was going here, I heard communication was going there, and nothing was in the middle. Nobody knew how or who was talking to who. So it was really aggravating. I had a wonderful talk with the principal today, Ms. Harris. Is very proactive. I asked her what I could do as a parent to help her, you know, with what we talked about, the ideas. And I am married to a public servant here in the town and was asking him questions. So I would like to see more with the seniors. If it's a marquee on the football stadium for a week, I understand that the athletics did it for 1 week. I think that's very important. I know we have flags. Some people are flying flags. But I think it's very important. I think a parade or something to acknowledge. I know there was a parade that was scheduled for Tuesday, which there's no way anybody could have planned that quickly. And I'm glad to hear that that was rescheduled till next Tuesday. Okay. But I do think that the district does need to do more for the seniors. I understand that we're under a executive order. Social distancing does apply now, but if it's office school property, I know the police will not be policing that. Okay, I know people can call in, complain. Then I know the district is worried that there's going to be backlash if kids are taking pictures, posting them on social media. But I think it's very important that we continue, or we do recognize the seniors. I have a seniors, this is last year, they get one chance. Okay, he was in FFA, he's very active in FFA. All this money that we've done for the swine, out the window. And so we took prom away. Not we, the state. They have nothing. I mean, they need to graduate. Yay, thank y'all. Thank everybody for that. I appreciate that. The problem is that they disappeared. Okay, now you've got seniors who, half of the seniors they don't care anymore. I don't care if I graduate or not. I mean, I don't care if I walk a stage. Well, some of them do. My son is here to talk on his own behalf. But I do think it's important that we pour into the seniors right now. Pour into them. If that's a parade at the park, or a park, a picnic or something. Let's reach out to the parents, have them do so. I'm the first one to volunteer. I asked Ms. Harris, what can I do to help you? What can I do? Tell me. But you know, look, I do have access to the police and ask questions. Some people don't feel comfortable asking. So I would like to see more of that, and that's why I'm here today. I am. It was aggravating as a parent not to see anything go out about graduation yet when our ceremony is right in our backyard. So I just want y'all to know from a parent, I know there's not hardly any parents that's been up here, we do care. And it breaks our heart because they get one chance. That's it. One chance at high school. And I think it's very important that we all come together and pour into them right now. Everything's been taken away from them. Ag, soccer, baseball. And I think we should, as a town, come together and do what we can. And I'll be the first one to sign up. So that's all my thoughts. I appreciate y'all's hard work. I appreciate people who's reached out to me. But I do right now want to focus on the seniors, and I hope y'all do too. And that's it for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Blake Neal. Mr. Nail, so I need you to state your name and address for the record, please, okay? And I will let you know that you will have 5 minutes to speak. I will let you know when you have about a minute remaining, and I'll let you know when you have less than 30 seconds remaining.
All right.
And also let you know that no one on this panel, other than our superintendent, Dr. King, can respond or answer any questions that you have, okay?
All right. Yes, sir.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. My name is Blake Nell. I'm a senior at Waxahachie High School. I live on 637 Tulane Drive here in Waxahachie. You know, I've gone to Waxahachie like all my 12 years, and the only thing I've been looking forward to was graduating. I look at the upperclassmen, they're graduating. And for me, you know, I haven't gotten any emails about graduating, which kind of sucks because I don't know if it's going to happen or not, and I know y'all are working on it. But just as a senior, this is the only thing I'm looking forward to is graduating, going to work, or going to college, and et cetera. And, you know, I show pigs, and I've shown pigs 4 years, and, you know, it's like a bittersweet goodbye. And, you know, if I didn't have a graduation, that would break my heart because that's the only thing I've worked for. And that's the only thing I hope is this graduation goes well. And, you know, I've heard a lot of people saying seniors don't care, and, you know, I can't speak for all the seniors, but we do care. And I know there's a lot of people that care, but they just can't speak up. And like there's a lot of seniors that care. And this is, you know, like I've said, like this is the only thing that we've cared for. And I just hope, you know, they all are doing it, and just let us enjoy it because we only do this once. And that's all I ask. That's it for me.
Okay.
So,
Thank you very much, sir. Kayla Milholland. Okay, Ms. Milholland, I need you to state your name and address for the record, please. Okay.
Oh, state it?
Hold on. Okay, you'll have 5 minutes to speak. I will let you know when you get to the 4-minute mark, and then I'll let you know when you have just about 30 seconds left, okay? Also, that no one on this panel can respond or answer any questions or comments that you have other than our superintendent, okay?
Yes, sir.
Floor is yours.
All right, I'm Kayla Milholland. My address is 103 Oak Creek Court, Waxahachie, Texas. And as some of y'all probably know, I am president of Waxahachie FFA. This is my last year. And we will not be having a banquet this year, probably, and it breaks my heart. Sorry. And the only thing that I ever looked forward to is this banquet. And for us not to have a banquet on school grounds is just awful. But not just that. Us not having a senior week. I remember my older sister picking me up from her senior week, and she told me about this awesome event that she had. And I was only in the 5th grade. And I was like, this is going to be awesome. Something for me to look forward to. And we won't be having a picnic. We won't be having the going to the stadium and watching on the big screen the movie for that year. And I honestly think that we could have this. I really do, because it's an outside event. We don't have a stay-at-home order anymore, but we do have social distancing, and I believe that we can make that happen. And of course, we're going to be talking with our friends and everything, but I feel like we could definitely make that happen. And that's probably all I have to say is that I think we should push more for the parade. And I know the parade is like going to happen, and that's one thing that like touched my heart, because I'm going to be able to see all my teachers again. And so, yeah. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, is Mr. Nail still outside, Ms. Fuller?
Yes.
If they want to stand kind of where they can hear, our superintendent's going to kind of address all the comments and questions. If they want to stand there out in the hallway to where they can hear.
Yeah.
That's the last one, yes.
I just wanted to say, Board, at your seat is a list that Mrs. Harris updated today of activities that we have been doing to honor our seniors. Of course, I agree with them, it's not enough because they... Thank you. That it's not enough because of what you've lost. But we will be posting this online as well. And as far as off-campus things, the high school is doing what it can and feels like can legally do, pulling off this graduation and following all the guidelines about 6 feet and who can sit together. And I mean, that's why we're having to limit the number of people who are invited. It's difficult enough at the graduation to control that, but to have a picnic and to have these other things that, bless your heart, I hate that you miss those things, but we just can't have banquets and picnics. We would love, now, if something changes that they allow us to, then we will be lined up and we will have that. But right now, we have to respect what the laws are and the regulations. But within that, we are trying to do as many things as we can do. And I hate for you and the other young man who presented that you've lost so much, and to all of our seniors. None of us wanted this. And there's not a person in this room that if we could change this, we would, because everything all of you said about how awful this is, we agree. But we are doing everything we can to have as many activities. It's just that it's so limiting with the requirements and the restrictions. And I'm so sorry, darling.
No, I understand.
But
Thank you.
Thank you, you're welcome.
pardon me?
I think
We're going to post it online tomorrow. I wanted the board to see it tonight. Jenny, did I see you peeking around the corner? Would you go ahead and post this tonight?
Yes, ma'am. I'll ask Ms. Murphy to do.
Okay, on the WHS website.
Yes, ma'am.
Jenny, and also WISD and anywhere else. WISD, the web, anywhere else, just because,
We'll do a little tab under students that says seniors 2020.
okay. Put it under the COVID too thing, because that's what's holding us back.
Okay, sure thing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next item on our agenda will be item 4 under Human Resources. Ms. James coming back in? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Ready? Okay. Good evening, Board. I would like to ask that you approve the personnel report recommended by the superintendent and as presented in closed session.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the personnel report as presented in closed session.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Timmerman, a second by Ms. Kriegel. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Ma'am?
Oh, I have an item B.
We didn't have any professional contracts, I don't think, do we?
We had teacher. We just had teachers that were left over that were not. I'm sorry. That were not.
Oh, no, A would have encompassed all of what we had tonight, I believe.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Board,
you.
we do not have a workshop tonight, so moving on to item 6A, which will be our TASB Employee Opinion Survey. I believe TASB is going to be presenting to us tonight via the internet.
For us, TASB will not release their consultants to come out until next month.
June
So
1st.
next month, when the compensation person, we bring that back to the board, we will have a live person. Okay, so for now, all the presentations for tonight will be virtual. So we've been practicing all day, and make sure we don't have any technology problems. We have a crack technology team back there, so let's pull up the ISD. Get the meetings.
I need to say, okay. Well, one's Janelle is the employee survey, and Luce is the compensation.
Okay.
So they're both there.
So we need to be talking to Janelle.
Janelle?
Janelle.
Ms. Guillory, can you hear me?
Okay.
Ms. Guillory or Ms. Cadena, can you hear either one of us?
Hello, Ms. Guillory?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Can you hear the board?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
But can we see her again?
Yes, I can turn my camera on.
There you go.
There you are.
Hey there.
Can you hear us, Ms. Guillory?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. We're ready when you are.
Excuse me?
We're ready when you are.
Proceed if you're ready.
Okay, great, thank you.
She could probably hear
Some
you.
of you are clearer than others. All right, I am Janelle Guillory. I'm an Assistant Director in HR Services, and I'm glad to get to speak to you tonight about the Employee Opinion Survey. First, we'll start with...
Second, we can't hear you there, but it's on our end, unless you can turn yours up louder.
I can try to project a little better, but I am on a headset, and this is about all I can do.
Okay. Is that it, Stephen?
I think that's going to be.
Okay.
If worse comes to worse and we can't understand her, we will ask her to come in. So if you get too frustrated, just say, this is too difficult, would you help you? Okay?
All right, we'll give it a try.
I'm gonna let you out in June, right?
Have you seen the presentation projected?
That's projected.
You're seeing it? Okay. Great. So let me move forward. So first we'll cover some administrative information about the survey. And the survey was done online mostly, with paper surveys as an option for employees that don't regularly use computers as part of their daily work. And so the survey was done in January of this year, and we did send email invitations and reminders out to employees. And then those paper surveys that I mentioned were mailed back to TASB for data entry. Having us administer the survey on behalf of the district provides a layer of confidentiality and helps respondents feel more comfortable answering questions. This year you had 880 employees respond, which is a 67% participation rate. 60 to 70% is considered typical for employee surveys, and the first year is sometimes different than subsequent years, but you stay very steady year to year. Teachers, campus instructional support, and auxiliary were the largest groups, which generally matches your employee demographics. Respondents had a wide range of experience in your district, which is good, because it does mean that their opinions reflect a wide variety of employees. Additionally, the people were well distributed across work locations, with the largest group coming from your elementary campuses, followed by the high school. Now you have some background on how the survey was conducted and who responded to it this year. We can move on to more...
Miss Guillory.
what they had to say.
Miss Guillory, could you hang on 1 second? We're having technical problems.
Ms. Guillory, could you hold for just one moment? We're sorry.
Yes, not a problem.
We're having audio problems. How much trouble would it be for you to plan to come here in June?
We really don't know when we're going to be allowed to travel. We expect that it will be fall before we're allowed to, if at all.
Because there's no way we can do this compensation plan and not hear. What'd you say, Stephen?
I was asking if she was going to do a little bit better now.
So do you want to, is this better? Is this clearer?
Yeah, I don't know whose end it is, but this isn't working.
I can hear about every second.
And really, this is a report that y'all need to listen to closely and answer.
Why don't we set up like maybe a Zoom?
Okay,
With the board and
okay. Stephen, if we set this up as a Zoom meeting, if they can't travel until fall, could we set this up as a Zoom meeting next month? We've got 2 reports tonight. This one is complicated enough, but the next one is very detailed. And I mean, we need to be able to hear So,
And if we need to, we can do it during the day. As long as we know in advance, we can schedule a meeting where all of us can be here
it
during the
could
day. It doesn't
actually
have to
be
be at
a
night.
workshop because we're not going to take action.
If we know about it ahead of time, I can patch it to the system, and she'll actually hear your microphone, and you'll hear her through these. Perfect.
If it's Zoom, right? If it's a Zoom meeting?
Yeah, I just didn't know we were doing a Zoom meeting tonight, so.
Well, we didn't either. We thought this was going to work.
Okay. Yeah, but if I know ahead of time, I can make it perfect.
Okay, Ms. Guillory, well, I'm sorry, it's not you. What we're thinking about, if we could schedule during the week a Zoom meeting, then each board member, you will come through our speakers, and the board can give their attention, because this is very important, and and I know how important it is for y'all, for us to understand, and it's very important for us to understand. So what if we take both these presentations, because if we can't hear you for this, we're not going to be able to hear the compensation one, and make those, we will agree, we'll get with the board on a day, during the day, and have it in a workshop. Would that work for you?
That works for me. Luz?
Yes, what day are we looking at? That's the only question.
What'd she say?
She said it worked. She said yes, that was fine.
Okay, so let's do that. I apologize. I know y'all practice all day, but it never occurred to us that you wouldn't be coming through our speaker system. Okay, but it's because of the way we're doing this. So we're gonna come back and go with Zoom, okay? Board, are you okay with that,
I'm
Mr.
perfectly
President?
fine with those.
No, only because I know a lot of teachers out there that were wanting to hear this tonight, not only the survey, but also compensation, and now they won't get to hear it all if we do a Zoom.
Is there any way that,
If you just give us a few seconds, I know how to get it patched to that.
okay, wait a minute, we're patching. Hang on, Janelle, we're patching.
All right.
And can I say something? If it works out great tonight, great. If it doesn't, my suggestion regarding doing a Zoom meeting would be, Zoom is, you can do Zoom from home. We don't even have to be here. And we all plug into the same place. Our TASB folks can plug in, and then we can have that live streamed so they can still see it. So the audience can still see it, just FYI.
Good for you, you know what.
I mean, that's, a lot of boards are meeting that way right now. So it's not, we could. Yeah. Oh, we can.
Yeah, you're gonna have to come to all of our houses while this is going on.
How does that work for open meetings?
Well, one, it would be, that's the problem with having it houses is there's no open meeting. So it would be posted, just. Pardon me?
School boards are doing it right now. They're meeting on Zoom from wherever their computer is. We all go in, we all plug into one place.
Okay.
We have access to the Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's how they do it.
Well, we'll learn that system.
You could run it through our district website, just like the city does through the city website, right?
Now, Ms. Timmerman, I know one disadvantage of that is they're teaching. But, so maybe it would be in the evening. I know Mr. Autry said during the day, but it could be.
He's gonna work it out here.
Okay.
He's working.
Yeah, we got it. Ms. Guillory, could you speak for us real quick?
Yeah, let's try this again.
Back in business.
Yay!
All right. So we will resume. We covered a little bit about, let me go back a slide, about who participated. And so now we're going to move on to the individual questions. So you missed a little bit of detail about demographics, but we're good to go. So factors in job satisfaction, respondents were shown a list of factors and asked to pick their top 5. And these were things that influence their daily job satisfaction. So these were the top choices, and they were all picked by at least half of respondents. the respectful treatment of employees, compensation and benefits, work that is meaningful to them, and relationship with their coworkers. From there, we move on to the bulk of the survey being asked in the form of a scale, where respondents are shown a list of items and they decide between strongly agree, agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. There is a no opinion option, and some respondents do skip items. So what we'll discuss, the strongly agree and agree have been combined to indicate a positive response. I'll cover the highest agreement in each section in green, as well as the lowest in each section in yellow. It'll give you a sense of the range of responses. As you will see though, the lowest item is not necessarily negative. It may have a very strong response. So it's more of a sense of the range and sometimes a warning area or an area you may want to focus. Beginning with job satisfaction. The highest item was liking the work they do with 99% agreement. Here's a perfect example where the lowest item still has a vast majority agree, 89% in this case, for recommending the campus or department as a good place to work. The remaining items in this section all fell between 89 and 99% agreement. Oh, wait, I just realized I am projecting the wrong slides. I am so sorry. I had a file up from last year. So we'll run back through those. My apologies. I thought that was the last one in my recent files. Glad I double checked. I realized I was missing a slide there. All right. From the beginning, there we go. So about it, 970 responded. It was 66% participation, which was only 1% below last year. The demographic layout was very similar to last year, majority teachers, then campus support. The demographic layout for time in the district was also similar. 13% have been here less than a year, the most 30%, 4 to 9 years. Demographics by location, elementary, and then the junior and high school were very similar to each other. So this year for the factors, there were 3 over 50%. Comp and benefits was the top now, then respectful treatment of employees, and work that's meaningful. So the scale we described, so liking the work stayed the top at 98%, and would recommend the district is 87%. It did see a slight dip, 5 points, but it remained quite positive with 87% agreeing that they would recommend the district to a friend as a good place to work. For working conditions, 92% agreed that they work in an environment that is safe. The lowest item was 74%, who said the workload is appropriate for their position. This had 2 notable drops, a 7-point drop for hours worked being reasonable, and a 6-point drop for feeling secure in their employment with the district. Relationship with coworkers was the next topic, and it was all very positive news. So 97% like the people they work with, and lower, but still very positive, was 92%, saying their team works well together. Here, all items increased very slightly between 1 and 3 points. Next, we move to relationship with the supervisor. 90% of respondents said they are allowed to make decisions within their scope of authority. And 82% say they get the training needed to do their job effectively. Changes for this topic were all within 3 points, but 8 of 10 saw small increases, and that can be watched for future changes over the years. From those day-to-day aspects of the job, we move up a level to compensation and benefits. 89% of respondents agree the leave time provided to them is adequate. However, the lowest item is that 63% believe pay is fair for the work done. The caveat there is that the pay and believing pay is competitive items both saw large increases this year. It was an 8-point increase for believing pay is fair for the work done, and a 10-point increase for believing pay is competitive. We know that House Bill 3 gave districts a lot of additional funds last year to use toward pay increases, and that often creates a bump for this item. For this year, HR Services is conducting a compensation study, which will provide recommendations for the coming school year. We move up from there to district communications. 88% of respondents agreed that the district shares important news and events with staff, while 69% agreed that employees have a way to express concerns to the district. In this section, we saw that all items decreased by 6 points on average, and the largest decrease was 10 points for believing policies and procedures are communicated clearly. District leadership had 74% agree that they believe leaders act in the best interests of students, and 67% believe the leaders value the employees here. This section also saw decreases by 11 points on average, and the most notable was a 14-point decrease in believing leaders value the employees. For the relationship with Board of Trustees, 82% agreed the board is committed to creating conditions for student success, and 74% believe the board is committed to creating conditions for teacher or staff success. All items in this section decreased by 7 points on average, and the most notable one was 10 points for creating those conditions for teacher and staff success. Campus environment begins 3 sections that are shown only to a narrow group of respondents. This one is shown to teachers as well as campus instructional support. Of those respondents, 94% agree their principal treats them with respect, and 86% say their campus is clean and properly maintained. There was an 8-point bump for the principal being effective in leading the campus to achieve its goals. For curriculum and instruction, items were further narrowed to just teachers. 94% of those teacher respondents say teachers are held to high professional standards here. And 45% believe teachers of special populations receive adequate resources. 9 out of the 10 items in this section decreased by 10 points on average. The most notable was a 17-point drop for staff development, providing useful knowledge and skills. There were 2 14-point drops, one for believing teachers of special populations get adequate resources, and another for teachers being involved in decisions about instructional issues. Student discipline had 91% agree that the principal provides leadership and behavioral standards, and 82% say the code of conduct is consistently and fairly enforced for students. For this section, all items increased by 10 points on average. And there was an 11-point increase for principal providing leadership and behavior, and for the student code of conduct being fairly and consistently enforced. Respondents were shown a list of 4 departments at the end of the survey and asked to check off the ones they had interacted with in the past year. Additional customer service items were shown only for respondents who indicated they'd interacted with those departments. For human resources, respondents, 98% said the staff is courteous and respectful. 86% said the policies, forms, and information are easy to access. There was a 5-point drop for policies, forms, and info being easy to access. For the business office, 98% said the staff is courteous and respectful. 91% agree policies, forms, and info are easy to access. Here, all items remained within 2 points of last year. 91% said that curriculum and instruction staff is courteous and respectful, and 74% said they get the help and info they need from that staff. All items in this section decreased by 9 points on average. There was a 13-point drop for 2 items, policies, forms, and info being easy to access, and getting the help needed from that staff. Next was the maintenance department, where 98% of respondents said the staff is courteous and respectful. 92% said staff is responsive to calls or emails for assistance. So overall, business office and maintenance were rated slightly higher than HR and notably higher than curriculum and instruction. Comments on the survey come from 185 people, or about 19% of respondents. So they represent a pretty small subset of employees, and we always recommend using the comments alongside other results shown earlier in the report. The comments are just a large open text area where respondents can tell us anything else they want us to know. We read them and categorize them as positive or negative across a variety of topics. A single person's comment may include a variety of topics and be positive or negative, so the total number of positive and negative comments don't always total the number of people who gave the comment. 65 people provided accolades, and the most common response was that the district is a good place to work. 128 provided complaints, and the most common were about the new lesson planning system. 43 included suggestions. So now you have the information. You may wonder where to go next. We recommend digging deeper and looking at district priorities and how that matches this data so that you can connect it to goals, whether that's for the superintendent, principals, or departments. You can look forward and set new goals based on what you discovered and often by what you were surprised by or didn't expect. And then check back periodically, whether that's a formal annual survey or doing focus groups about a specific program or issue that you've discovered. And I'm happy to take questions, but we may need someone to repeat them close to the computer.
I'm sure we have some questions and comments, Ms. Guillory, so does anybody want to go first? Questions or comments from Ms. Guillory? Shirley.
Ms. Guillory, last year you had recommendations for the staff, for us to carry out. Do you have recommendations that we will be getting as far as going with our goals? Because we did have several categories that
I'm only able to make out every second or third word. Could someone repeat it close to the computer, or could the computer be moved?
Okay. Last year, you gave recommendations on the survey, how we could respond. And it's obvious we're going to need to put this into our goals, but are you going to have recommendations for us in order to address the concerns of the staff?
I want to make sure that I understood. So you're asking, based on recommendations from last year, this year, how do you address this with staff?
Last year, you gave us recommendations. Are you going to give us recommendations this year for how to address the different concerns?
So this is about the extent of recommendations because so many are dependent on district-specific programs. Unlike the compensation side where we can compare externally, this is about comparing yourself year to year and seeing where it lines up with other priorities and where changes did or didn't occur that you were expecting. And so if there's a specific area that is surprising as far as a change, we may be able to dig a little deeper into it. But as far as the recommendation of where to go next, that's a district process that you would decide which items are most concerning and should be tackled first, which may be already addressed by programs that are in process to implement next year. And so that would be a work in progress for y'all to take.
Okay, thank you. So you're saying, though, that we will address them with our goals and our goal setting for the year?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Guillory, on the campus environment section, in the future when we do one of these, is there a way to separate principals and assistant principals?
I, again, only heard the beginning of it. For the campus environment section.
Yes, in future surveys, is there a way to separate and allowing the people, our employees to make comments or based on assistant principals and principals separately. Right now, I believe they're all grouped together.
We do provide campus breakouts so that by campus, the superintendent can see those questions, but not by the breakout of specific principal or assistant principal.
Okay.
And so it would be a campus as a whole. Did that address the question? I still couldn't quite hear it, but I was trying to piece it together.
Somewhat.
Yeah, because the campus leadership is kind of how the principal runs it, and they.
Right, I understand. Any other questions for Mrs. Guillory?
I couldn't hear that. Can someone repeat it near the computer?
I'm trying to find out if anyone else has any more questions or comments for you.
I think Ms.
I just wondered if we could see this data. Is there a way we can see this data in a primary versus secondary setting?
So the
Or did I
campus
miss it?
reports would be broken out by campus so that you can, there's a breakout comparing it to the district overall.
I got it. Yeah, I overlooked it. I'm sorry.
Okay, yes, we got that. So, Board, I think what we'd be doing in the goal setting would be looking at the overall employees' opinion survey and the board coming up with, this is what, I think that's what she's saying. It would be, it's campus, district specific. What I think she's saying.
Campus?
Yes, and so those campus reports can help with campus goal setting or seeing where something isn't a campus problem, it's a district-wide issue, since those would have different solutions.
Anything else? Or we'll let Ms. Guillory go? Let's go.
Mine isn't necessarily for her.
You're going to have to turn your microphone and talk louder because I can barely hear you.
So I think we answered, I'm not sure if this is appropriate time to ask, but I'll go ahead and ask. Under the major findings, you know, we had several areas where I know we went down 11 points, 7 points, 8 points in some certain areas. And so my question is, we'll look at that in goal setting, and then is there a district response? What are the plans for the district? I know as part of the DEIC committee, it was mentioned that, you know, people were encouraged to fill out the survey. And I mean, I just think that's probably the question that most people are going to have is what are we going to do with the information?
Well, I think that's what we're going to talk about in the goal setting.
Okay,
For example, like the question with DEIC, which was truncated, obviously, this year, but it got off to a start because we'd not had it in that format, and there was misunderstanding, and some of the principals hadn't had their CEICs, so it was not the smoothest takeoff. And just when we were getting it to a kind of a nice flying altitude, this COVID happened and it truncated it. So we'd be looking at each of these items individually is what I feel like we'll be talking about.
Anything else from Ms. Guillory?
Excuse me?
I think we're done, Ms. Guillory.
Thank you, Ms. Guillory.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope the other lady can talk louder.
Dr. Kane, this wasn't for her, but I'm assuming the special ed audit that we're going to go over in June.
Yes.
Because last year, the percentage for special ed resources was low, and it's even lower this
Right.
year.
And I think what you're going to find from the special ed audit is why and their concerns. And that's some of the things we would be bringing forward in that, for example, what I just said to Ms. Starnader, the DEIC got off to because not all the CEICs were happening. Everyone didn't understand they needed to go through CEIC and not DEIC. Once we got all that straightened out, because we'd not operated this way before, then so we look at, was that a good explanation for that? Special ed audit. When the audit comes back and it says, here's the things we're doing, special ed's going to have its own, because this is an area that frankly came out in the audit as well. Because of the audit, special ed will have many things as goal setting and things to change. So that part would already be taken care of by special ed. So that's what we'll be doing, is breaking apart all of this to see what we can do to change all the employee opinions upward.
I just feel it's real important, you know, the teachers, everybody takes time to do this.
Yes.
That their concerns are addressed, so it's good that we're going to be doing that in our goal setting in June.
Agreed. Yeah, we need to set that date.
Okay.
If someone wants to look at this report, can they, or how does that
Oh,
work?
this is public information.
Okay, okay.
And if the expectation, if the year hadn't ended like it did, would be the principals would take their information individually, they would go back and work with their campuses and try to find out, you know, what areas that they can improve on, or to say to staff, you say you're not getting the resources, help me understand that, because I'm thinking you are, so where's the disconnect? See, there's not a bad guy in the story, it's trying to get to the disconnect.
So we can go out of order and go to the TASB compensation.
Yes, it's Luz, it's the other TASB lady, we were gonna kind of break.
I mean, she's there as well.
Okay. Luz?
Yes. Yes, I'm here.
Luz?
Yes.
Ms. Cadena.
Are we ready?
Yes, are you ready?
Yes, I am. All right. Well, thank you so much for having the opportunity to present the information regarding the pay study. Janelle has finished up the employee survey portion of it, and I'm going to move on to the compensation or the pay system review process. So we started this process in October of last year, where we collected the district pay data and information, and we held some preliminary discussions with the administration regarding pay issues and concerns and objectives of the pay study. So as part of this pay study process, we held interviews with department administrators so that we could review jobs within the organizational structure as well. Next phase, we moved into the market analysis portion of it and compared market comparisons with the approved peer districts. Then we held a preliminary draft review with administration in March. And just keep in mind that cost models provided here are all based on a snapshot of district pay data that we obtained as we began this project. So I'm going to talk a little bit about pay system objectives, and primarily strategically designed pay systems provide for these objectives, which include competitive salaries and strong starting rates of pay, so that a district or an organization is able to recruit quality employees. In addition to that, the placement of jobs in the system is based on the level of skill, effort, and responsibility of the job, as well as market value. So paying for the job and not an incumbent's qualifications or criteria prevents the overpayment or underpayment of jobs. Additionally, retaining employees by providing market competitive pay increases, and especially those that are comparable to your peer groups, and advancing pay of employees closer to market levels so that you can retain those quality employees. And then lastly, controlling costs, definitely by adhering to pay range maximums, and also budgeting based on, budgeting for these pay increases based on your district's financial resources. I'm going to talk a little bit about pay systems controls. As you can see here, We set the range midpoints aligned as close to market as possible. And so by doing that, we connect the pay structure to market and then set the minimums and the maximums, which are control rates as well. By creating a structure that's connected to the market, this provides the district market competitive pay. And as you can see in this illustration, you are able to see the hierarchy of jobs as they progress based on those increased levels of skill, effort, and responsibility, as noted in this illustration here. Market pay strategy, we're going to talk about a little bit more in this next slide. And in a market pay strategy, what we talk about here is basically aligning those structures as close to market and paying employees near those target rates of pay. So when we say target rates of pay, we're talking about the midpoint. And the midpoint is aligned to market using that market data for those benchmark jobs that we use and we look at based on your peer districts. Some districts may have different pay strategies for different jobs. So for example, teacher pay, the strategy for that may be that you're going to pay closer to market and you would want to do that. Whereas for other jobs, paying within 10% of market variance, it may be more appropriate. As you can see here, the 90 to 110% of market is illustrated. That is that 10% within that market variance, which may be very appropriate for some jobs. Another thing to keep in mind is that pay systems and your pay ranges need to be adjusted on a regular basis to maintain a competitive position. So if structures are not adjusted as pay increases are approved, then the system becomes disconnected from the market, and then it'll be more costly later on to make the improvements needed. We're going to look at the peer districts that were used for this market comparison. We used 15 peer districts. They are listed here on the slide. And we did have 3 of these peer districts that did not participate in our salary surveys. So TASB conducts salary surveys, and that's how we are able to conduct the market analysis for districts as part of our pay study. So Burleson ISD, Crandall ISD, and DeSoto did not participate in our salary survey. But we were able to obtain teacher pay information from the district, and that information is included in the comparison pay. Highland Park ISD, Dallas County, and Mansfield ISD, their pay data may have been excluded from market comparisons for positions such as directors and above due to their district size and difference in job scope. In addition to school market information that we use for comparison, we also utilize third-party salary surveys purchased by TASB, and this includes the Economic Research Institute for the Dallas metro area and Comp Analyst for the Dallas metro area. And we utilize the non-school survey information and combine it with school market for positions that are commonly found outside of education, such as technology, such as business positions, a lot of your maintenance positions. So we include this market data in with the school market information. So what this one slide shows, this is the teacher demographics. And we're looking at the distribution of the total years of experience for your teachers and librarians up to the 30-plus years. What that 50th percentile line shows is that 50% of the district's teachers have 11 or fewer years of teaching experience. The next slide, this represents the number of newly hired teachers for the 2019-20 school year. And this includes those positions that were paid on your teacher schedule, such as librarians and nurses as well. And what's notable on here is that when we look at the staff that was hired with 0 years of experience, 18% had no prior teaching experience. We're going to move to the market comparisons now, and we're going to begin with your teacher pay. And so what we have here is the comparison of your teacher schedule at each of the 5-year intervals from 0 to 20-year salary levels. And as you can see, the district is represented by the orange solid line. And the comparison is going to be to the market median of those peer districts that we just reviewed. So the market median is that blue line. And the district teacher pay relative to the market median of your peer districts is competitive. It's very competitive overall at all of these points in the range, except at starting salary. And that's where it's the least competitive. The district is about 1,000 below the market median at starting, and that's about a 98%, that's a 98% market position. And is the most competitive at that 20-year mark, where you can see where the district is a little over $3,800 above market. That's a 6% above market position. But we also have another market analysis on this slide, and that is how the district compares to the 75th percentile of those peer districts. And so that's the top quartile of competitive pay within the set of peer districts. And when we look at that, teacher pay is competitive at the top, so it continues to be competitive at the top of the range. And so that's the 75th percentile line is the purple line. And as you can reference, a comparison of district pay relative to that 75th percentile, the top of the scale continues to be competitive and is at 4% above the 75th percentile. At the bottom of the pay range, that's where the district begins to lag a little bit more and is 4% below the market when we're looking at the 75th percentile at that starting salary. This next slide is a reflection of the values that we just saw from the graph that reflected how the district compared to the median in the 75th percentile. And as you can see here, you have the market position as a percentage, and then the difference from market median dollar-wise, as was noted. And so it just illustrates the detail behind that one slide. We also reviewed the district's teaching area stipends and how they relate to the market. So overall, these stipends are below the market median values of your competitive market group. You do offer a competitive master's degree stipend. This is the general master's degree stipend of $1,500, whereas the market median is $1,000. There is one district in your peer group that offers a subject area master's degree stipend. While this is not a practice that is prevalent in by most of these districts in your peer group, we do see a trend in certain spots across the state where districts are offering a subject area master's degree stipend. And for this, the benefits of paying the subject area master's degree stipend is one for dual credit programs. And then second, there is research out there that shows a correlation between student growth and teachers with an advanced degree in their subject area, primarily in the secondary math and science. But as you can see in your area, we only have one district that has this practice. We're going to move now into market comparisons for the other pay groups. And so we're going to begin with the administrative professional pay group. We subdivide this pay group into 3 categories: central administration, campus administration, and professional. And so when we look at the central administration, you can see that the number of benchmark jobs that we were able to match to our survey is 23. So that's 23 district jobs that we match to our salary survey and serve as benchmarks. And the overall pay comparison of individuals in those positions is at 93% of market. That's 7% below for the group on average. So there are some that are closer to market. There are some that may be above market, but on average, it's at 93% of market. Now, when we also compare how your current district pay range midpoints, that's your current structure, compares to the market, the comparison drops substantially and is 15% below market. So this indicates to us that your current pay structures and range midpoints are disconnected from market, and they're not working for you to provide competitive pay for these positions. For the next group, campus administration, these are 10 benchmark jobs, includes the assistant principals, principals, and counselors. And for this group, pay overall is competitive at 2% above market. All the positions in this group are paid within 10% of market value or higher, and the pay range midpoints are 4% below market. So the structures for these positions are, at least the range midpoints, are a little bit more competitive than your central administration jobs. When we move to the professional comparison group, this includes some of your special ed positions such as DIAG. It also includes SLPs. It may include the instructional coordinators, nurses, librarians. And so for these positions overall, pay is 1% below market at 99%. And the range midpoints are 3% below market. So continuing with the more competitive position between the campus administration and professional, and then the less competitive structure position for that central administration group. For this category, we were also able to match 23 district jobs to the survey benchmark jobs for the market comparison. Moving on to the non-exempt, similar to how we subdivided the administrative professional group, we also subdivided the non-exempt into the instructional support, clerical, technical, and auxiliary. For the instructional support, there's 5 positions. The instructional aides, the library aide is included in this category as well. And this group overall is paid very competitive to market. In fact, the group is the most competitive relative to the market of all of the pay groups that we reviewed. The midpoints continue to be very strong at 13% above market. And the range minimums are 3% above market for the group. When we look at the clerical technical group, these are 17 positions, and these are positions from campus secretaries to department administrator secretaries to receptionist level to the PEMS attendance support roles at the campus. And this group, as I mentioned, is 100% of market. The midpoints are at 95%, meaning that they're 5% below market. And then the minimums are a little low at 93% of market overall for the group. Then the next category is your auxiliary. And so this includes your maintenance. It will include your transportation, your food service. And so for this group, we were able to match 19 district jobs to our salary survey benchmarks. And pay overall is 10% below market, with the market comparison being at 90%. This group had the lowest market comparison overall of all pay groups for the district. And the midpoint comparison for the group, you can see, is at 88%, meaning they were 12% below market. So again, the pay structure was more disconnected from market for this group as well. The minimums were fairly competitive at 93% or 7% below market. So the minimums were a little bit more competitive than the pay structure midpoints. I'm going to move on to the recommendations. And we're going to start with the first recommendation. And this is basically to implement the pay structures that we've realigned to market. So we've reset midpoints and reconnected your pay structures using those benchmarks and the market value for those, and then improve the starting rates of pay for those pay grades. We also reclassified some jobs based on market and job scope. And when I say reclassified, there were some jobs that were moved around, placed in another pay grade. And again, by reviewing the level of the job and using the market data, we were able to identify some positions that needed to be realigned. We also updated some job titles to better reflect roles. And then we realigned the clerical pay group. It was the clerical paraprofessional, and we actually separated the instructional support and created its own separate pay schedule so that the district could continue to be competitive with that group, and also be able to continue the practice of paying the instructional aides with bachelor's degree and recognizing that pay grade for them as we move forward. For the recommendation 2, we have 2 models, and this is for teacher pay increases. The first model is a 2% general pay increase for teachers with a starting salary of $52,550. This equates to a $1,130 increase for all teachers, continuing teachers up to the range maximum. Model 2 is a more conservative pay increase model at 1.5% with a starting salary of $51,500. And this pay increase equates to $850. We also are recommending setting the teacher hiring schedule to 30 years of experience for your new hires, meaning that as you bring in new hires, the highest placement for them would be at that 30-year mark, but your continuing teachers move on through a pay range that's even higher than that 30-year salary for new hires. The continued recommendation of 2 is to provide those continuing teachers the board-approved pay increase up to that maximum, and then implementing pay structures for all other pay groups. By that, we mean we've reconnected the pay structures to midpoint, reset some minimums, and so implementing the pay structures is moving the individuals into the new minimums, and also any adjustments necessary to place them at the rate of pay based on their experience by using those equity placement scales that we'll talk about a little bit more here shortly. The teacher pay increase is calculated as a percentage of the market median salary. And then going forward, pay increases for all other pay groups are calculated as a percentage of the midpoint. This delivers a more equitable and fair pay increases to employees in the same pay grade, as they all will receive the same amount of pay increase depending on that percentage amount for each pay grade or the pay grade that they are assigned to. There are some additional adjustments, as I've mentioned, to implement the new pay structures. So the adjustments would be adjustments to the new minimum. So individuals that are currently paid below the new range minimums would be brought up to 1% above the new range minimum. And then for the administrative and professional employees, for those positions, anybody that is paid below 90% of market is targeted to receive an additional 1% of midpoint. And that is to continue to move pay or advance pay of those that are paid below 90% of market or have the least competitive market comparison, to move them a little bit faster through the range and closer to market value. There are some teacher pay equity adjustments for positions within the teacher career path. And so these are positions such as your counselors, your DIACs, your assistant principals. And we take a look at the proposed teacher schedule and make sure that on a daily rate basis, that pay for individuals in these positions will not be less than what they would make as a teacher on the proposed schedule. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the equity adjustments using placement scales for the non-exempt staff. And so we've actually divided the range minimum to midpoint into 15 separate pay rates or levels. And individuals are moved to these rates of pay based on their experience, so that pay is distributed, and this allows for the ease of compression in pay as entry rates are increased, and it also moves the pay of individuals with more experience farther into the range and closer to that target rate or midpoint. The recommendation for us to continue to monitor the teaching area stipends so that the district remains competitive. We are considering increasing the special ed self-contained stipend to $3,000. That is the market median for that stipend. And then to realign the current general resource or the special ed general resource stipend to $1,000 from the current $2,000 level. Recommendation 5 is just to continue to follow the market-based approach for pay planning. Using your teacher as your teacher hiring schedule for placement of new hires, and then using the midpoint-based schedules to align pay with market for other pay groups. As mentioned earlier, Pay increases for teachers are provided as a percentage of the average of the market median salary in your peer group. And then pay increases for your other pay groups is calculated based on the midpoint of their assigned pay range. And lastly, recommendation 6, annually review the compensation plan and update as needed. This, like any system, needs to be maintained. Adjustments need to be done on a regular basis because in the absence of that, the cost to make improvements become greater when these systems are not adjusted on a regular basis. So we're going to look at the cost for Model 1. This was the 2% pay increase for teachers only, and then the implementation cost for the other pay groups. Now you'll notice that there's not much of a difference for the other pay groups between Cost Model 1 and Cost Model 2, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But for the teachers and librarians and nurses, the cost for that 2% to provide that general pay increase and some additional adjustments in a few years to improve your market position is $848,333. That includes not only the general pay increase, but the adjustments as well. For the administrative professional, the cost to implement the new pay structure and the cost to ensure that current staff is paid no less than what they would be paid as a teacher for those positions in the teacher career path, as well as providing that additional 1% for those paid below 90% of market. The cost is $257,233. For your clerical support, you can see that the cost to move them to the rate of pay based on their experience according to that placement scale that distributes the pay between the minimum and midpoint up to 15 years. The cost for this group is $75,409. And then for your instructional support, likewise, the same approach. We're talking about $68,802. And your auxiliary group, again, remember this was the one group that was the least competitive to market overall. And for this group, it's $298,060. So the total cost to implement this Model 1 is a little over $1.5 million, or a 2.3% increase to your current payroll cost. Model 2 is the 1.5% pay increase. And in this model, you'll notice the increase for teachers is the $609,217. And the administrative professional adjustment cost is a little bit different from the 2% model. And that's because the adjustments to the teacher schedule for those that are paid below the proposed teacher model and those positions that are in the teacher career path, the adjustments needed are less. So you can see there is a slight decrease in the cost for the 1.5% model when it comes to the administrative professional. And then continuing with that same approach for your clerical support, the instructional support, and the auxiliary, because the costs are to implement the structure and the placement scales that I've mentioned that distribute that pay from the minimum to the midpoint, 15 years to midpoint, the costs remain the same for this group between the two pay increase models. And so for this model, We are looking at shy of $1.3 million or a 1.9% increase in the total payroll costs. Any questions?
Board, yes.
Questions for Ms. Kadena?
I know this is a lot of information. That's why we're bringing her back next month, because you have the overview and you have the little packet of information. I'm not discouraging questions. It's just that I know it was a lot to absorb. Basically, what she's saying is we should do this every 7 years, but it's every 3 years, but it's been how many years? But it's been over 10. What this does, it gets titles. She didn't speak about some of this is like our titles are kind of antiquated, and a lot of times people come for titles or different titles. It puts us right in the heart of this is where we need to be to attract the best and brightest, and most importantly, to keep the best and brightest. So that she's saying if we can put in one of these two models and then be loyal and faithful to it, and that HR would say, never again do we get out of, well, you get this and you get this, that it would be, we will have a parent, Ms. James and Ms. Burkhalter, to say, this is how we protect the pay structure and that we keep ourselves competitive at market value. That's the Reader's Digest version. Would you?
Dr. Kane?
Yes, sir.
Do you know, I got it on. Do you know if they used pre-House Bill 3 data or post-House Bill 3 data, raises that we gave? Did they, how current is this comparison?
When did we send in our data?
I have one question. I believe on recommendation number 3, if you could look back at it, but I believe that'll take care of those.
Okay, she's taking us back to 3, Ms. Kriegel.
The teacher pay equity adjustments for teacher within teacher career path. Will that take those people that have moved from a teacher to an administrative position and more days, but yet they're making less than our teachers because of the Senate bill or House bill last year, our big raise, or not? Last year we received a big raise, and some of our our administrators and people like in the support positions did not receive what their peers on 187 did, so they received, they're working more days, but they received less money than what they would have if they just stayed as teacher. Will this take care of that? Sure.
So, and that's the situation this year with us upgrading some people, moving into some of the positions now. Basically, we set some steps to make sure that they get paid what they need to. TASB has in that document outlined some ways to do that. I have some ways, so we'll decide on those ways and then make sure that happen. Some of the ones I've talked to, I think the concerns they have is their base pay is more. Their base pay is a lot more. The problem is some of them have stipends and additional
Ms. James, would you get a little bit closer to that mic right there?
The issue is, and this time too, I looked at some of them. The issue is they have stipends. And so when their base pay is considerably higher, I've been making sure that their daily rate is either a little bit higher or no less than what their daily rates are now. I think the concern comes back with the added things that they get as a teacher, and on the administrative professional pay structure, there's no stipends. Okay, so but this will adjust some of it. I am working with them to make sure that we align correctly this period, since I'm brand new with dealing with all of the stuff this year. I'm making those adjustments to make sure that their base pay is definitely considerably higher than their pay was as a teacher. But again, I can't make any concessions for the stipends or additional things that they receive as teachers.
When you came in, James, you corrected how we were doing our administrator pay, but are we going to go back and collect those people that were paid incorrectly?
TASB will make those adjustments. As they said, they look at the salaries and they will make all the individual adjustments.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct. Thanks, Monica. So in the pay data files, as we look at these individuals, as we've mentioned, those that are within that teacher career path, we take a look to see on a daily rate basis how they compare, and we make adjustments. Again, some of these adjustments will need to be reviewed with administration to make sure that we've captured the right experience. Some positions, individuals move into these roles that have a much expanded duty calendar. And so it's taking a look at how their pay compares then as they moved into some of these roles. But we do go in, we identify those, and then make some recommendations and then review with the administration as we start going through some of the details.
I would just like for a standard policy to be in place and followed.
That's what we're going to do once we clean all this up. And again, you'll be back next month, right? So the board, you don't have to make a presentation, but to ask clarifying questions by the board or for further information.
So we continue with the same guidance from TASB that where we are not able to travel to districts. So a presentation next month would not be something that we could do, but if it's in this format or Zoom, we certainly can join and provide follow-up information.
I apologize. I meant in the same format. I knew you guys couldn't come back, so I meant in technology. But apologies for me not clarifying.
Any other questions for Ms. Cadena?
Okay, you got a lot of homework to study. Okay.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Ms. Cadena, thank you very much, and I'm sure Ms. James will be talking to you between now and the next meeting, okay?
All right, I really appreciate it. You guys have a great evening, and thank you so much.
And thank you very much for your presentation.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, good to go.
Okay, next item on our agenda will be our project manager report. Mr. Craig?
Mr. Craig. Good timing. We missed you last month. I'm telling you, I tried, but it wasn't the same. Everybody told me it wasn't the same. They said, get that man well.
I am sure you did a fine job. I tried to watch it, but the internet wouldn't work. Yeah, they're always coming after me.
So the camera can get you.
Thank you, David. Well, we are, by the way, good evening, everyone. And thanks for all of your prayers while I was sick. I could really feel them. I really could. Pneumonia.
Pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
But not to be outdone, I got pneumonia too.
That's right.
It's from making these project manager reports.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Let's go on down the road and not do that again, Dr. Kane. All right. Let's do a report. We're going to start with agri-science. And if you'll look in that left picture, looks pretty nice, doesn't it? We've got all the columns in. I think we're going to adjust the color of that upper part just a little bit to match the columns a little closer. When we looked at that with the paint chip and we compared it, it was just right on. But later, with the sun hitting it in different ways, I think we need to take a little yellow out of that. Doesn't look bad in this picture, actually, but it looks a little more yellow out in reality. And if you'll look at that interior arena, we that's a pretty sharp looking building, if I do say so. Just an aside, the other day, last Wednesday, I guess it was, when it was like 91 degrees, 92 degrees, we took an infrared thermometer out on the outside and pointed it at one of those panels, and it read 115 degrees. We went around on the opposite side of that panel, and this is just the wall, remember, that's just 2 inches thick. It was 65, a 50-degree spread.
That's good stuff.
We turned that big fan on in there, and I needed to go get a jacket.
Those fans work.
I am not kidding you. It was 68 degrees in there. We had kept the doors closed all day long, and this was 4:30 in the afternoon.
And we're going to have to knit sweaters for our swine.
I think we might. We're going to have the most spoiled pigs in the county, or in the state, for that matter. These pictures, you can see many thanks for the city of Waxahachie sending out their vacuum sweep truck. They came out and they did a job that in a short while it would have taken us a long time, because we left that concrete rough on purpose. But this truck, it didn't bother it one bit. It cleaned it right up, and they did a very good job, and we're so thankful to them. And the swine building, you can see the pens there. We got those up. A big thanks goes out to our support services, specifically our grounds crew, along with Stephen Mott. They worked their tails off last Friday. They really did, and they got all this. And each one of those panels, they are not light; they are heavy. And that's the sheep and goat building. And pens are in there as well. We've got pens in the cattle building as well. Of course, they're not ready to put up. They're just laying there, but they're out of the weather. They're inside and protected now. So we're in good shape there. You can see the classroom there. Of course, we've got to add baseboard and just a little cleanup there, but it's in good shape. And then the restrooms, we've already got all the stalls in, and seal those floors, and we're good there. Let's move on to Max H. Simpson Elementary. Making great strides there. This is the front, except for, you see the two columns, you see where the scaffolding is there, and you see the two columns coming up. Those are now in place as of today. Those columns are in place. And the brick company is basically gone now. They'll be back to set our cornerstones and to, the little quarter radius walls in the front. They've got to come back and do those. And then just a little touch up, put the Knox box where, emergency keys go in the front and things of that sort. But for all practical purposes, it's bricked. It's done. That was taken last week from a long way off, and I didn't get a chance to do that today, but it's still pretty impressive, isn't it? Coming up that street. We've already got fencing going in around playgrounds. They're placing concrete. They're doing a foot-wide concrete beam around all of that, so that when our support services grounds guys get there, they can weed eat right up to that concrete. They don't have to worry about trying to get into that chain link fence. It'll look so much better, and it'll stay looking so much better. Cafeteria, or the cafetorium, I guess. You can see we've got a lot of the little those little round, different colored patches you see there. Those are actually soundboards, but it looks really cool. And we've got that same thing going on in the gym and the stage. On the steps here, that'll get wood on that, be oak on that. But and you can see the floor. We've got all that covered up now with a cardboard. But you talk about an intricate design. Those guys are good. And here's classrooms in the kindergarten and first grade. We've got all kinds of colors. As you can see, the millwork is in. Basically, all that has to be done in that room is, and most of them now, even today, they were dropping ceiling tile in and put a baseboard around the perimeter of that, wax it. That room's done.
Mr. Perry, what
Yes,
kind
ma'am.
of flooring are we going to have in the classrooms?
This is VCT tile, yeah. Yeah, it's VCT, it's vinyl commercial tile. And you can see in one of the pull-out reading rooms, we've got all the shelves in there, on the right side there. And then that's a corridor. We have ceramic tile on the walls up, much like we've got at the high school. And then of course at the bottom that gets a vinyl baseboard as well. And then only a maintenance person would appreciate that ladder. But let me tell you, that is extremely important to our support services guys. But I had to put that on there. And to be continued. We're making great strides. We really are. And we're going to get this done. We're going to get it done. Any questions I can answer?
If I wanted to come and take a tour of Simpson, do I need to contact you?
Just contact me.
Okay.
Absolutely. You name the time, and I bet you I will be there.
Okay.
You get the Craig customized tour.
We have our owners meeting on tomorrow at 10:30. Every other Tuesday have an owners meeting, and you're welcome to join us if you'd like. 10:30. So anytime.
Are
Thank
they
you.
still cutting it close on Simpson, or they got some wiggle room on finishing?
We're optimistic that we're going to gain a little bit of that time. We actually lost, with weather and everything else that's going on, just under a month is what we're behind. But we are making it up. We really are. And so we're telling Ms. Valias, who's going to come and put 2 more coats of wax on the floors after they get theirs. They're going to strip them, this company that puts the floor down, and put 3 coats on them. We're going to put 2 more coats on. And that's going to be June the 15th, that week. And she's going to send she can bring 4 or 5 crews out there. She can do that whole building in 2 days, more than likely. And then Katie, bar the door. Here we go. So.
And we're trying to get the administrative area ready early, so if Ms. Wilson and Ms. Villarreal can move, then we can start the moves as the dominoes fall, how other principals move. So we're trying to get her area set up. So when furniture comes in and things like that, of course, she's still closing out at Felty, but we're trying to have her a little niche both places.
We may have her on a plastic table and a chair for a
That's
little while.
okay.
But
That's okay.
We'll get her in there and let her go to work, but you bet. And when it comes time to move the furniture in, you're all invited to help. Yes.
And to put it together?
That's right. Thank you all.
Anything else for Mr. Craig? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Glad to have you back, sir.
Oh, glad to be back. And you too.
Thank you.
Okay, item C, items approved by the superintendent as allowed by the delegation of authority of COVID-19 emergency.
Yes, as Mr. Averett Dr. Averett makes his way up here, is David out there? Okay. It's basically just the written report, and it's not that I did anything that's way out of line of what the board usually does, but it's just kind of letting the board know that because of COVID, these are the things that we've been doing. Like, for example, we never have cheerleading and drill additions online for a variety of reasons. But of course, I authorized that because it was the only way we could have cheerleading and drill team tryouts. But Mr. Morgan did a really good job in supervising that. And then also part of COVID is how we're having to do graduation. And so I've asked Dr. Averett, and what he's going to present doesn't sound that complicated, but this man spent hours and hours and hours working this plan out. Dr. Averett?
Thank you, Dr. Kane, the board. So we didn't know until last week that we'd be allowed to have an outdoor graduation. We'd been kind of hoping and planning and praying that we would. So 2 weeks ago, I asked Coach Reed and his staff to put together what a social distanced 25% occupancy plan would look like for Lumpkin Stadium. And so he did that. Looks like we can have about 1,900 or so folks in the stands, both visitors and home stands, and then about another 144 seats on the field to take care of 4 tickets apiece for every senior. Our senior class is about 540 kids, and that includes students from high school of choice that are graduating. So anyway, he put that together, and so we just kind of had it in our pocket, and we set 3 different dates for June, July, and August for WHS graduation if we're allowed to do it outside. Global already had a date set for July. July 18th, I believe, was their date that they had set. But then after last week, when they said that basically after June 1st, and then they backed that date up a little bit to May 29th. After May 29th, outdoor graduations are permitted. But they also included a very long list of requirements, clarifications, rules, so to speak. Of those rules, of course, we have to have hand sanitizing areas at the entrances. We have to control how people get in and out of the stadium. We have to set social distance seating. We have to, we cannot hand anybody anything unless we're wearing gloves. So those kind of ideas, those things that we've been kind of talking about as all of us been living our lives lately, they applied all those rules to graduation. So I was actually thrilled that we had a plan already pretty set for Lumpkin Stadium. So that way we didn't have to create that. So we were able to pivot within a day and start working on the guidelines for how we would do that at Lumpkins. I'll be honest, we don't have every detail ironed out yet. We still have to have some details about how we'll get people in. We are very fortunate in our district. We have a wonderful relationship with our local radio station, and they have offered any assistance that we need. So one of the things that we want to do is that as we are seating different sections of the stadium, that KBEC will help us by announcing that over the radio. So we would ask folks when they come that they would tune to KBEC, and that when it's time to seat, say section 105, KBEC will say, everyone that's seating in section 105, please proceed to this entrance. We have to have everybody health screened. Nurse Bousquet is working on a Google form for health screening that we would have families fill out before they come. Now we know that Google form would be easy. However, it may not be easy for everybody. We know connectivity has been a problem this entire distance learning cycle. So we'll also have forms available for students when they pick up their tickets, and forms available when they come to the graduation in case they haven't gotten that filled out. Speaking of tickets, in order to control people getting into graduation, it's going to be difficult. So it's going to have to be pretty prescriptive. What we don't want is some sort of mad dash, for the best seat, or we don't want somebody to say, somebody got these best seats because they know David Averitt or they're friends with Dusty Autry or et cetera, any of those kind of things. So in order to make it as fair as we possibly can, we're going to have to randomly draw those seats so that they're randomly assigned. And that's the best we can do. We've talked about, people have asked questions about handicap seating. And we do have handicap seating available in our stadium. And students that are going to need handicap seating are going to have to tell us in advance, so we'll know specifically who those folks are that might need those seats. We're going to have to limit the people that are with the person that needs assistance to one, so the other family members will be able to sit in the seats that they have assigned to them, because we can't let those concourses become too crowded in the stands. One of the things that we decided last week was that instead of having Global wait till July, we would have Global have their ceremony at Lumpkins as well. That's going to be different for Global High. They've used to having a ceremony inside at SAGU, but we believe with a class of 88 students that we can actually double their ticket list, that they can have 8 tickets instead of 4, and we can sit all of those 704 people right in the middle in the green seat back chairs, because that will actually hold a little over 1,000 seats. And so actually it's like 1,800 seats in the seat backs, and half of that is less than what Global's 88 kids times 8 would be 704. So we're also going to move the stage immediately following graduation Friday night with WHS. We're going to move the stage, and I know we can't pull this off without Jacob Perry's team of support staff. These guys treat graduation, it is the Super Bowl for them every year. And so we know that those folks are going to be burning the midnight oil, probably racking up some overtime, and we know that's what's going to happen. But we're going to move the stage to the 50-yard line so that Global can look directly at their families right there, instead of, because WHS is student body and the crowd will be so large that we'll have to use both sides of the stadium like we have in the past, and set the stage at the north end of the end zone. So that's kind of a fast version of our plan. We still have a few things to work out.
And because Dr. Averett has laid out the stadium like he has, two other districts have contacted us to see if they could rent Lumpkins for their graduation, which will help defray our costs for our graduation.
Right. Yeah, we have, can I say those names? Or So Ferris ISD and Life School have both contacted us. I don't think those dates are set. We haven't gotten a definitive thumbs up, thumbs down, but they are interested in having their ceremonies.
But we did say Friday and Saturday, which is and Sunday. I think we're not letting them have it till Tuesday, just in case worse comes to worse. I can't imagine us getting into Monday on graduation, but
we can't have an indoor contingency. They have specifically said no indoor graduation. And as things have continued to change, kind of in the positive direction of loosening restrictions, I think we're all, we know now that it could actually go backwards if things get worse. And so that's why one of the reasons why we thought it was a good idea to go ahead and have Global's graduation immediately following WHS, so we can go ahead and get those kids graduated, because we don't know what's going to happen in July.
And we want them to have that ceremony.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I guess I missed that memo. Global's graduating on the 7th?
6th.
Okay, and the high school's at the 5th?
Right. What I sent to you guys on Friday was Waxahachie High School's plan.
Right.
I had a few questions with Mr. Lynch, about some of the things that Tanya Ms. Harris already had worked out as far as when seniors are going to pick things up and where they're going to pick things up. I had to get those kind of cleared with Ken today before I sent him that document for him to send out. So that should be going out to Global families, if not today, tomorrow. So the 6th is our date for them. One of the things that we asked students also to do in that document, you saw that we asked that they tell us if they're coming or not, because I realize there's a good chance that they may not come. One other factor that was really important to us that we had several of our parents contact us was a concern that if we did not have graduation as soon as we could, there was a really good chance that those students that have decided to serve their country in the armed service would ship out to either boot camp or basic training prior to graduation, and they would have to miss it. And we definitely don't want that to happen. So that's another reason why we moved it up to June 5th from June 20th that we originally.
And other students have other obligations.
Sure.
And we just want to capture as many as possible in our ceremony.
Any questions for Dr. Everett?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and do we have an alternative date if we have a rain contingency?
So right now, our plan is to follow the plan that we've used in the past, that is kind of treat it like an athletic weather delay.
Okay.
Kind of like a 30-minute.
Okay.
That's our plan right now.
Okay.
And if worse comes to worse, Waxahachie High would be Saturday morning. We'd start Saturday morning. We just.
Yeah, I think it was 9:30 or 10.
We just have our fingers.
I was on the other side of the world. We were done, but y'all were getting started. And
We just have our fingers crossed for the weather. So be praying for good weather, because that would be, so many things have happened that this class has missed out. We just need to pray that this graduation will go timely and well.
Yes.
And I'm assuming all hands on deck for a jam up live stream broadcast for those that can't come.
Yeah, absolutely. We have. I saw the bid contract or whatever today for the AV company that actually does that for us. So we actually have a vendor that works with our AV folks that do the live stream, have the video going with the kids going across the stage and up on the video boards. That's happening, and we also asked them to be there for Globals as well as I talked to Pyro Shows of Fort Worth today to double our pyro order for fireworks for Global on Saturday night. Yes, ma'am.
As far as the board's role, I was reading your write-up on the website. Will we be able to hand out some diplomas? I mean, I know we have to wear gloves and all that, or how's that going to work? Is that?
Anybody who hands anybody something has to wear gloves.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I know I I got an email from Laurie Navarro that says, we need all of your height, weight, and highest degree earned. I'll let you give that to Dr. Kane and let her distribute that to, because we need to get your regalia for graduation. But whatever our role has been for the board in the past, I would imagine we would stick with that.
Yeah, it was pretty well set last year, and I feel like it worked.
Yeah, but we won't be able to do that this year.
We shook everybody's hand.
We're gonna be separated 6 feet apart.
Oh, that's true.
We're gonna be separated 6 feet apart. We're not gonna be able to shake hands.
We still have a little bit of contingency stuff to work out about as far as what the stage is concerned. I know Global's another question. Global is used to having a very robust presence on their stage with students and folks. So Dusty's right. We're going to have to, whatever seating arrangement we have, we'll have to mirror what we ask the students to do.
Our student, instead of going straight across, they may have to, we take some of those chairs out, and they may have to kind of go that way. So, because at least everyone can say congratulations. We may not be able to shake hands, which is going to be really strange, but at least they get their graduation walk. Yeah. Great job. Thank you for being our student. Questions for Dr. Averett? Okay.
Are you addressing all these, Dr. Averett, all of the public?
So, so, what I wrote up for publication last week was kind of our answers to the guidelines that the state gave us. And they gave us guidelines for graduation ceremonies, and they kind of, I wish they would have put the outdoor ones on the front, but they put the last page 4 and 5 of that document. So I just kind of looked at every bullet point that they had and then answered how we will do that. Now, there are some specific details that we are in the process of developing. And so, I got a meeting with Greg, Coach Reed, and Mr. Perry tomorrow afternoon to look at, for example, how we're going to stage families as they get to the entrance. What that's going to look like. Family group, family group, family group, so that they're apart. How we're going to roster each section so that the staff people that are working there can look at that roster and know that this family has turned in their health screening form and they're good to go in, or they have not and they need to fill one out, etc. So it's going to be a lot of folks working. All those folks have to have on masks. They all have to have on gloves. Anybody that's handing out programs has to have on gloves. So it's going to be...
yeah, we're going to need our parents really close. But of course, there's just going to be 4 of them too. We're used to envisioning a crowd kind of coming in as a large crowd.
I guess I heard about another place that people were going and they were doing, they had a liability policy. Are we any more liable than we normally are, or we still have?
I'm not an attorney. I really shouldn't answer that question. I would say I bet we are not. Based on my knowledge of school law, we have quite a bit of immunity from those kind of liabilities.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
So that would be
As long as we're within the law, and that's why we're so careful about saying we're going to follow the law. That's why we can't have a picnic off campus that we sponsor, because we can't make certain all the rules are being followed this way to the best of our ability.
I mean, I think it's good. We have had quite a few folks who have, and not a majority of folks, of course, who have expressed that they wish we weren't having to use so many guidelines, and we could be more open. And on the other side of that coin, as you can imagine, we have had some folks express some very heartfelt disagreement with us having graduation in this way at all. As I said in the document, graduation is not mandatory. You don't have to participate, and you're going to still get your diploma and get your transcript. I mean, it is. When I was a principal, this is the big party at the end, okay? But we really want you to be there. But if people feel uncomfortable or they don't feel like they can do it, and they just can't, then we respect that too, and we will find a way to honor their graduate as best we can. But we respect that if they have a real concern a valid concern.
Ms. Krieger, I think I kind of sensed your question was about on this list.
Yes, the list.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So, what was your question on the?
What is the end of the school year? I mean, it says through the end of the school year. What is the date?
Well, technically, the end of this. Oh, Ms. Krieger, are you read?
What is the date of the end of the school year?
That has not changed. Technically, we've always had May 29th as the last day for staff. The last day for students has always been the 28th. The 29th is last day of staff.
Okay, because I heard the 22nd today, and I thought, I don't know
22nd?
that. I just heard that.
Okay, so there's a reason why you heard that. So it's not technically the last day of instruction, but we know we gave out 3,000 devices. And we have 9,500 kids, a lot of them who have left things in classrooms and need to pick them up.
Because they thought they were
Supplies, things like
coming
that.
back.
And so what we've said is that while we want to stop online instruction at a point where we can start to get our devices back in a way, the school year itself is not really over until the 28th.
Okay.
I would venture a guess as a former teacher that the last week of school is not necessarily full of academic instruction.
Right.
In fact, at a high school, for example, the last 3 days for grades 9 through 11 are exam days where they're not actually being taught anything. They're actually doing exams and coming on exam schedules. So this is kind of almost basically an exam schedule where they're going to come in and take care of their stuff, but they still have, the duty that they have is to bring their things back.
Okay.
But they're not going to get any additional work during that week.
It just confused me when I heard the 22nd today. I thought, that's not what I remembered. But
Right, well, that's a legitimate question. I'm glad you asked it because it helps kind of clarify that. And the reason why, so all of our schools are doing the Tuesday through Friday or Tuesday through Wednesday to Thursday is that date where they're picking stuff up. We backed that up to that Friday for seniors because we know they got other stuff going on, and we had to get a day just for them so we could get them things like their cords or their NHS collars if they hadn't picked those up, those kind of things. And we didn't really need every other grade level up there at the high school, for example, picking that stuff up.
so what will the date be for the seniors?
22nd.
22nd.
22nd is the day for WHS and for global.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Lee, would you address, come in please, and just address, we do not have any more liability because we're having graduation the way that we're having graduation within all the rules, but is there any more liability?
We enjoy immunity for almost all liability. The standard is, are we being deliberately indifferent to safety and security? And in this regard, absolutely not. What you've heard from Dr. Averett is a plan that earnestly is trying to implement all and more of the standards that have been released by the Commissioner of Education. So just as Dr. Averett said, we held on to hope that we could have a graduation that would be worthy of our students' success. And so we've been able through the state now to have the opportunity to do it. We're not doing what we would normally do. What we would normally do is invite 10,000 of our community members or the families of our graduates to come celebrate. We can't do that. That would be indifferent of safety and security. But instead, we're following the guidelines from the state. We are going to enforce those guidelines, and we will ask anyone that doesn't follow those guidelines to leave, and we will force them to leave.
So we're good to go in that area?
I assume, yes, I assume we'll be using the police department and the sheriff's department and, you know, I mean, everybody that's available to help. I mean,
well, we will let
we're in
Sergeant,
the incorporated area of Waxahachie. We're hosting at Lumpkin, so we will rely on City of Waxahachie.
One nice thing about this, the SRO program is our sergeant makes those calls, what's enough and what we need to add, and it's given us a lot more confidence in those decisions. Anything else on this item?
No question.
Thank you, Dr. Averett. Thank you, Mr. Aubenshine. And Ms. Mott, you're up.
All right, moving from
Another
talking-
thing that's usually a wahoo little rodeo.
Yes. So moving and talking about our oldest senior graduates to now our pre-K and kinder, our youngest students. We were not able to have our traditional pre-K and kinder roundups this spring.
In the past, we have those events held on each campus. We just get to meet the kiddos, their parents get to tour the buildings, kids get to see classrooms. It gives us a really good idea of how many students to expect coming into our pre-K and kindergarten classrooms. Well, we weren't able to do that this year in the traditional manner, so Ms. Bridges set up a Google sheet for me, Google survey. They can go online. It's on our website. There's a link, and they go in there and fill out basic information, at name, address, just basic things, so that then we can come back in the summer and get them an actual registration packet for them to fill out. And that's not unlike any other year. Usually at kindergarten roundup, pre-K roundup, they get the packet. They never have everything ready to turn in at that point anyway, because proof of residency we'd need in July or August to bill anyway. So we're just doing it all online this year. We'll be running that through May 22nd. As of today, I had 319 kindergartners pre-register and 142 pre-K students pre-registered. And honestly, that's really pretty good for this time of year. Some of our kindergarten roundups would have 30 kids register, as many as maybe 50 at Shackelford and Felty, but some of our other campuses would have 15 or 20 come to those roundups. So they'll start coming in through the summer. We'll get lots of phone calls through the summer, and I expect those numbers to keep going up. I've really based the kindergarten staffing off of the projected enrollment at that campus for their first grade. So they have 80 kiddos that have rolled over and skyward to that campus in first grade. Then I pretty much know that I need about that number for staffing at the kindergarten level as well, because we never really know for sure until the kindergartners and pre-K come through the door what that number is going to be. Any questions that I can answer about pre-registration for kinder and pre-K? Okay. Moving on then to just pre-K. We did expand we're going to expand the pre-K program next year. We had 9 sections at Turner, and we had expanded and grown, and we're using every possible room we can there. We would like to have about 18 pre-kindergarten students in a classroom. For comfort, we were up to 22, 9 sections of 22. And that is really, really crowded. We've got a teacher and an aide in every classroom. And so we are going to be expanding our pre-K program to 2 other campuses next year. We'll have 3 sections of pre-K at Marvin and 3 sections of pre-K at Northside. So I broke down for you on the bottom of this report how we're going to zone that. And I looked at numbers from this last year to try to get some balance in there. So at Turner Pre-K Academy, Wedgeworth attendance zone, Dunaway, Shackelford, Clift, Simpson, and then any students from throughout the district that are in need of special programming, such as bilingual services, special education services. All of those will still be housed at the main Turner campus. Northside, they will take in the Northside zone, of course, and Felty as well. There were 24 students from pre-K students out of the Felty zone last year. Majority of those would have still been zoned for Felty next year, so that's why I included them with the Northside group, was to keep that number a nice number to have 3 sections at Northside. And then Marvin will only capture the Marvin attendance zone, and please remember that that zone changed a lot. It now takes in all of Wildman, and so there are a large number of pre-K students that come out of that area. And of course, staff members, we'll work with them on what campus they would like. Some of them, it may be more convenient for them to be at a certain campus, and we definitely will allow for that. All other transfer requests would work just like our kinder through 12th grade or kinder through, I guess, 5th grade works, and that goes through the Office of Student Services, and they can apply for that transfer. Any questions on the zoning?
And how do you qualify to be a pre-K student?
There are certain income restrictions to qualify through the traditional means of pre-K. And anyone that gives us a phone call about that, we direct them to Ms. Schaefer, who is currently the Turner pre-K principal. She can give them all the information about the qualifications for pre-K. Pretty much income, but there are special needs type qualifications as well.
Language.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Calden is up next. I'm assuming he's perched outside the door. Aha. Mr. President, this is basically just a report that you may have questions, but Mr. Calden?
Yes, ma'am. So we're at the annual investment report, required by the Public Funds Investment Act to have an annual report with the board on district investments and the policy. As in years past, we'll give you the report tonight and we'll ask for action on it at the June meeting. There are no recommendations for any changes to the investment policy this year. The investment officers of the district were in compliance with their required investment officer training. Those are myself and Wendy Ross. And then I believe it's somewhere, I have page 23 at the start of the investment report for me, but you'll see our investment report. We've diversified through two different investment pools, the Tex pool, and the First Public pool. While those are not overly diversified, we do have funds that are also FDIC insured in our local bank account. And we're also coming off of the 2015 and now 2018 bond programs where we had more funds that were diversified in different locations as well. You may remember we went out and bought a good number of CDs a couple of years ago for the 2015 bond program and laddered those through 3 or 4 different entities to get that diversification. In all, the district earned an average of 1.84 return on our investments last year, which is not world beating, but it is great compared to the market. The average 91-day T-bill, just the standard that we measure ourselves against, average was 1.46 during that same period. So like I say, we're not setting records with our investment returns, but we follow the mantra of safety, liquidity, and then yield. And so we want to make sure we're safe. We want to make sure we have the money when we need it, and the little bit that we can pick up in yield is great. So with that kind of concludes the annual investment report. Any questions from the board?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
We'll discuss that again in June.
All right.
Okay, Proclamation 2020.
Dr. Holt? No Dr. Holt out there?
Susan Holt? Dr. Holt? Dr. Holt?
I think Mr. Calden can fill in for Dr.
I will
Holt.
pinch hit.
This
as
is
we
our new
search for-
CNI director.
No, not at all. He will be sorely disappointed. Okay, well, let's go off memory here. So, Proclamation 2020. Generally, the way this process works is TEA and the State Board of Education annually go through a process of looking at the TEKS and looking at the instructional materials for the various courses that are taught in public education. Last year, it was mainly ELAR from kindergarten through 7th grade, I believe, and this year it is secondary or high school ELAR courses. Next year, I can't even begin to tell you, maybe it's health and PE curriculum, pre-K curriculums. Anyway, they break all the courses up that are offered, and it's generally over an 8-year cycle. The reason it's called Proclamation 2020 is that's what TEA titles it, and they go through and get information from the publishers and say, these are our TEKS, what resources do you have that will meet these TEKS? And then TEA comes out with a list of things that they've approved and said, okay, you can pick from this if you're going to use state funds to purchase these materials. Most districts in the state are going to use them because you get a significant amount of money from, we call it instructional material money, but we have an EMAT committee, and that's the committee that reviews the use of these instructional materials. All that to say, a group of curriculum individuals got together, specifically targeting the ELAR at the high school level, secondary level. They reviewed the materials that were offered, and they came out with 4 recommendations for things that they would like for us to adopt. Those are McGraw-Hill for the on-level English classes, Springboard for advanced placement courses, and performance learning, I believe, for the pre-AP courses. Teachers in high school ELAR have recommended that we have a one-to-one consumable-driven ELAR material for students starting next year, and they've also asked for at least 2 novel sets. What EMAT has considered and presented to you for recommendation is a one-to-one consumable set with the publishers that the campus level committees have requested, and a 3 novel set that they could use to get whatever novels that they would like, either class sets or form their own little reading libraries or reading clubs that some campuses have talked about doing. In all, I believe the recommendation is $560,000. Sorry, that's off the top of the head. I believe it's 560. Of that, EMAT had about 480,000 in its funds remaining, so the district has budgeted a little close to 200,000 for any proclamation overage. So the remaining 80 or so thousand would come out of that proclamation overage account that's in the general fund.
So that those teachers can have those resources that they need.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, I'm impressed. You did great, considering you were doing it all from memory.
I hope it's accurate. I will go look here in just a second before you take action.
Thank you very much, Mr. Colvin.
Thank you.
Okay, next time will be the introduction of our new SRO.
Yes. Sergeant Oliver? All right.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Y'all been at it a while, so I promise to stay pretty fast. I am Sergeant Oliver. I started in the SRO position here as the Director of Safety and Security day 1 of quarantine. And since then, crime have dropped off significantly in your schools. But I'm here today to introduce our new SROs. If you look down at those bottom pictures, Officer Lewis has been here with the school district. I want to say this is going to be his 4th year, and he's going to rejoin us next year. On the bottom right-hand corner, we have Officer Wafer, who started about halfway through this past school year. He grew up in Natchitoches, Louisiana, worked for a couple of police departments before he came here. He actually, right before he came here, worked, I believe, with one of the railroads. He was railroad police before he came to us. So we all think that's neat that he got to work with trains. Top left-hand corner, this is what we're excited about. We put it out to all the police officers at the police department. Hey, what are your thoughts about becoming an SRO? If it's something you're interested in, put in a memo. And we didn't get any in. I don't think that's to say anything bad about the school district. I think we've got, I don't know if teachers are like this, but police officers don't like change very much. So a lot of them had reservations for it. But because of that, we got to go in and hand pick people to come be our SROs. For me, being the director of this, I was thrilled with this opportunity. And in my opinion, we got the dream team from the police department as far as school resource officers are concerned. I couldn't be happier with the people that we're getting on board. If you're thinking about building a culture from the ground up, a culture of police officers and a program where we can really have an impact on kids' lives, these are the people that you would want to have on that team. So we've got Officer Ron Clayton. Before becoming to the Waxahachie Police Department, he was a Marine, served in Operation Desert Storm, came to us. He's been with the police department for over 20 years. He's worked as a detective, as a community services person, and then most recently he's been on patrol. Just a fine, outstanding individual. We've got Officer Martin at the top right-hand corner. She was a dispatcher for the Waxahachie Police Department for years and tried to get on as a police officer. And you talk about perseverance. She finally made it on. She's been working with us. I am partial to Officer Martin because she was on my shift as a patrol sergeant right before I came over here. And you talk about an outstanding individual, just her way to interact with people. I'm excited to work with her. And then at the bottom left-hand side, we have Officer Martinez, Albert, graduate of Waxahachie High School, circa late 90s. Really? Oh, yeah. So he's been around for a while, but yeah. Oh, yeah? Officer Martinez. Albert's a great guy. He's been with the police department. He was one of our trainers when I became on board. Has been a detective for the last few years, and I'm really excited to have him on board. It was funny because Ashley Ford got us all together to take these pictures of us. And it's funny that you talk about a group of people that we handpicked. This group of people, we hung around after this, and it was funny because some of the guys like Clayton and Martinez were talking about, this is such a fun group to be around that we don't want to go back to work today. We'd rather hang out with you guys. And so I'm thrilled to have them on board. Just the experience that we have coming, the type of personalities that we have, I really am. We really do have the dream team of police officers coming.
And we have the dream team leading them, Sergeant Oliver. Since he walked in that first day, I have been most impressed. Right now, his office is in the business office, and they have spoiled him rotten. So we're moving him out to the new portable building.
That's right. Away from all the food that keeps flowing around here.
Everybody keeps bringing him donuts, and he keeps getting his feelings hurt.
Yeah, every time I see her, Miss Harris offers me donuts. I'm starting to become offended. Thank you so
very much.
Thank you, Sergeant Oliver.
Okay, next item is our consent agenda. We've got a couple of changes to make note. Items F and G will be removed to action items. So they will be talked about individually. And also on item B, under the bid report, the technology recommendation is being removed and will be discussed at a workshop in June.
That's the part about the going to technology services. We have had a difficult time finding someone to replace Mr. Robinson. And so we're going to go to, we want to talk to you about going to technology services for a variety of reasons. So that'll be on a report. Can it also be an action item, or you just want it on report only?
No, we could do
report and
we could do it under
report and action.
Yes. Well, yes.
Okay. Okay. Good.
So, consent agenda will consist of items A, B with the amendment that I mentioned, C, D, E, and H. Any questions, discussions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items A, B as amended, C, D, E, and H.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McCutcheon. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Schofield. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, action items.
Mr. Calden.
Yes, ma'am.
We will do items F and G first
Okay.
for the consent agenda.
All righty.
As Mr. Wilson was saying earlier, we have been in contact. We've been working on the electricity contract for in earnest about 4 months now. We've been talking about it for a little over a year. There were discussions last year about possibly extending our current rate. Right now, we're at about 4.299 cents per kilowatt hour. Initially, the district considered that, but then also knowing full well that we were a year from the expiration of our contract, decided that we were going to wait and see what happened with rates. From there, I also sent out an email to Red Oak and Midlothian and Ennis and asked them if any of them would be interested in forming an energy consortium. And just kind of a way we could block all of our usage together, because in theory, the higher usage that you have, the lower the rate you're going to be able to get. So received emails back from all three of them, politely declining. But what was interesting to me was finding out the rates that some of them had signed up for. And they were anywhere from 5 to 10 years, and they were looking at under 4 cents a kilowatt hour. And so that really sparked the interest that, hey, we really need to go out and do something like an RFP or some other proposal format to figure out what is out there. We know we can get a 4.3 cents, 4.299. We know we can get a 4.3, but what else is out there? We got other entities getting 3.8s and 3.7s. So in January, we got together all of the usage and bid information for an RFP. We published it, received those in February. We got 4 responses. All of them were through Texon as a broker. The rates were actually fairly good. They were 3.7, 3.8, and so we were pleasantly surprised with some of those rates that we got back. But then we got an email from an individual who used to work for us, who had been talking to us about a reverse auction. And there was hesitation on my end to start with because I'd never done a reverse auction, didn't really know the mechanics of it. But within that, Mr. Perry and Mr. Oster worked through the mechanics of a reverse auction, and we found out that DeSoto had just done a reverse auction, and their rate was 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour. And so seeing the savings that were possible, 0.3 cents per kilowatt hour is about $50,000 a year, and we're talking a 10-year term. So you're talking an extra teacher salary per year over that term. So after the RFP responses were in and closed, we reached out to Tradition. Actually, Tradition reached out to us, but anyway, we responded to their emails and got in touch with them. The benefit of Tradition Energy Services is they are it used to be called U.S. Communities. They are a cooperative approved vendor. So they don't have to go through the RFP process. They don't have to submit bids. They've already done that with an outside source that we, the board, has executed an interlocal agreement with, so we can use them at any point in time. When we reached out with Tradition, they confirmed that we could get a rate about 3.6 cents per kilowatt hour. So in looking at that rate versus the rates that were received from Texon, it was my decision in the best financial interest of the district to go with the lowest rate that we were being offered. Electricity is electricity, and I thought it was in the best interest of the district to go with the lowest kilowatt per hour rate. And so my recommendation would be that we reject all the proposals that we had received. It's a legal mechanical step that we have to go through when we publish an RFP. You have to formally do something with the responses. So it'd be to reject the RFP responses received.
And that's F.
And that would be item F on your former consent agenda. And then item G would be, again, utilizing the reverse auction delivery method with a contractor or a vendor who is through the Omnia Purchasing Cooperative, and allow us to entertain that or execute that contract with them that would have a lower electric usage rate for a period of up to 10 years.
Which is G.
And that would be former item G. So there are 2 steps with this recommendation.
Are there any questions?
I just got one.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Texon mentioned that they brought up the reverse auction sometime in the last year or so. Did they get a chance to give us a bid based on reverse auction, or did we get just the RFP bid?
So we did not publish for a reverse auction. When we published the RFP, and they're the only entity that are submitting 4 responses, they've already kind of done a reverse auction for you at that point. They've got the entities bidding amongst themselves to give you the best response that they can. Within that, we did not publish for a reverse auction. We did utilize a vendor that was already approved in a interlocal agreement to provide that reverse auction.
So your expectation was we got the lowest rate from Texas.
My expectation would be if you're submitting multiple responses within an RFP, that's the best rate I can get from you.
But they weren't given that opportunity to come back and give you that reverse auction. It just seems like the rules were changed in the middle of the game.
Well, there were 2 processes that were happening almost simultaneous, but not really simultaneous, if that makes sense. So we did the RFP and we got the responses. Now, on our end, we got them in February and we haven't asked for any action until this point. After we got those, around the 1st of April, we entertained the reverse auction method upon learning that other districts were doing better than what we had gotten with the RFP. So 2 different procurement methods from an already established approved vendor versus not an approved vendor, the way to get on our list would be through the RFP process. And it can be the pleasure of the board. We can reject everything that was received and go publish again. And say it's a reverse auction and here we go.
I just think it's important to give business to local people when we can. I think he made a good point. You know, he's a Waxahachie, Ellis County, does business with everybody, and we're going to, what was it, Connecticut, that he said, or wherever?
I think that's what he said, yes, ma'am.
Have you seen what the market's projected out? I mean, obviously, this process has been going on for the last week or so. Has there been any indication that it's continuously going down, or?
What we're hearing from the market is that it's about to go up. And a lot of that's because oil got so cheap that we stopped drilling, and most of the energy consumption that goes into these plants that are producing is natural gas. When we're not drilling for oil, we're not securing the natural gas. So the stockpile of natural gas is going down, which is only going to drive the price of natural gas up, which is just going to make electricity more expensive.
So if we rejected all this and we went back out, the potential of us getting 3.6 is probably non-existent.
That would be my assumption, would be that rate's going to creep up. I don't know where exactly it's going to land, but I don't believe it's going to be 3.6.
But it's also our fear, not our assumption, it's our fear.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be one of the risks that we would be taking, a market rate risk.
And this would be for a 10-year agreement?
Yes, sir, for up to a 10-year agreement.
Jacob's kind of hanging around in case since he helped you with that.
I just want to say, I feel like we should at least reach out and let the companies come back and rebid because, I mean, you changed the playing field. And so if Textron or another company could offer us cheaper, then I think that they should get that opportunity to at least bid. I mean, or I guess I don't understand the process.
Okay.
We don't have to wait a month.
Could you clarify for me that up to 10-year period, what's the price of the parties?
We advertised with the original RFP that it was going to be up to a 10-year period, depending on what the rates that were received were. I haven't seen the rate from Tradition. It's my understanding that it's a flat 10-year rate at that 3.6, but I know that the agreement, I'm going back to DeSoto's agreement, I know DeSoto's agreement was 3.5 for 10 years and a flat 3 for 15. So if within the agreement, you're saying the rate was, let's say it's not an average of 3.6, let's say it's 3.8 for the first 3 years and then it drops to 3.5, and that's how you get an average of 3.6 over a 10-year period. If it makes the most sense for the district to only lock it in for 5 years because we think for some reason energy prices are going to go down in 5 years, then we would ask to execute for 60 months. If we think that 120 months is in the best interest of the district because utility prices are going to do nothing but go up, then we would go ahead and execute for the 120 months.
So Ron, what would it look like if the board said they wanted to go back out? We would still reject F and we would not act on G.
Take no action on G, correct?
So we would reject F, we would not take action on G. The board would say they would like for us to go do another reverse auction method. The holdup is Texon is not an approved vendor with the district. So we have to do some sort of public solicitation to get them to respond to be an approved vendor. So that will take the 21 days of posting and have them get us a response. I don't know how competing reverse auctions work, but we can find out together.
Why are they an approved vendor since we're already doing business?
They're an approved vendor for the contract that we have. And the contract that we had last time was with an expiration as of the end of the November 2020 period. So to get them as an approved vendor again, we have to give notice and publish and all that fun stuff so that they can be an approved vendor past the November 2020 billing period.
Technically, Are both procurement methods still open right now, the RFP and?
The RFP closed in February, maybe February 20th.
You couldn't just go back and say?
I can't just go back to the RFP. Now, we have gone to the respondents of the RFP and asked for, so the utility rate is quoted based off of a market index. And so once we got the rates from Tradition, we did ask Texon if they could update their rates based off the same date, quote us a competitive rate. There still was a gap that was in favor of Tradition, which is where the recommendation comes for the contract with Tradition.
So we have two items before us. The first one would be
Yeah,
the
we need you to
consideration to reject all proposals received for electric
no matter-
service provider.
no
We
matter
have to
what
do
we
that one no matter
next,
what.
We need you to reject. And then G would be if you say no to that, you would direct Mr. Calden to go out and do a reverse auction again.
Okay, so
Yes, ma'am.
I'll read it.
Okay.
So at this time, I will entertain a motion for the consideration to reject all proposals received for electric service provider RFP.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rogers, second by Mr. Schoolfield. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries 7-0. Now, item G, be the consideration of possible action to approve using Tradition Energy as provider utilizing the reverse auction delivery method for electrical services beginning with the expiration of the current contract in December 2020.
So if you reject this,
So,
you don't get a motion,
right, if we had no motion, no second, then we take no action.
and
So,
it dies for a lack of motion, and then the board would direct Mr. Calden and what him to do next.
correct.
You think it would take about a month? Just guessing.
Yes, sir. I think at the earliest, because we would have to post, wait for a second week for it to run, wait 10 days, come to the board and ask for some approval of that, and
So our next
then,
board meeting is June the
then
8th.
do the reverse auction.
We would be able to make June the 8th.
I believe so, yes.
So theoretically, this could be on our,
Theoretically, this could be on your next agenda with, and more than likely, what it would look like is a target threshold out there.
Okay.
When we do the reverse auction, the board grants us the authority to execute a contract that does not exceed 3.7 cents per kilowatt hour, does not exceed X number of months in length. And then whatever, because when we do the auction that day, we'll need the authority to go ahead and do it because the rates will change every day as we go forward.
everybody clear? Okay. So
What was Texon's rate?
3.7, I believe, is the best rate that was come up with. And 3.8, almost, it was 3.7 and change, close to 3.8.
That's a commodity market. How much did the market as a whole change vastly between February and
That I don't know. That I don't know.
I think it's so close, we ought to give them opportunity, my opinion.
All right, so I'm going to read the action item, okay? No motion, no second means it dies for lack of a motion. So here we go. Consideration of possible action to approve using Tradition Energy as provider utilizing the reverse auction delivery method for electrical services beginning with the expiration of the current contract in December of 2020. This time I'll entertain a motion for that action. Once. Twice. Item fails due to lack of motion.
Thanks, sir.
Okay?
So do you have your marching orders?
Yes, ma'am. We will get working on it.
Okay. Now we have under our original action item A, consideration action to designate a delegate and an alternate to the TASB Delegate Assembly.
And that will be in
So it's my,
September, October.
I think I was reading where the last time this has been done, it was in 2015.
Yeah, you're right. This
So-
year it's October 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and
This is really not, it's really not through nominations, we can just designate one and an alternate. I'll be honest with you, I talked to Ms. Starnader and asked her if she was interested in doing it. She expressed her interest in doing it. If there's anybody else, I mean,
But she does need an alternate.
yes, well, we gotta pick the first.
Not when you don't think.
I intend to go, but I'm okay with not being the alternate because I've been. No, we didn't attend.
Well, but I mean,
Delegates.
who usually attend, then that would.
Is there anybody else that has any interest?
Timmerman's ready to speak up. She just hasn't. Would you be the alternate?
Sure. I'll be the alternate.
You're gonna have Melissa back, right?
I will.
That means you have to keep an eye on her throughout the whole conference.
Okay, so I'm gonna read the motion. Here we go. Consideration and action to designate a delegate, which will be Mrs. Melissa Starnader, and an alternate, Debbie Timmerman, to the TASB Delegate Assembly.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McCutcheon, second by Mr. Schofield. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Now I need a motion to adjourn. Motion by Ms. Kriegel. Second by Ms. Starnader. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, motion carries 7-0. Hold on, don't leave, Judge.